Caitlin Carter, and you're watching Studio Sessions with Music Times. Today's guest is Amy Vachal. She's a Brooklyn-based singer-songwriter who just released her EP, Crinkle Bloom, through Rockwood Music Hall Records. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So first off, for our listeners who aren't so familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into music? I know I read that you used to be an athlete. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Oh, sure. So it's kind of funny. I used to be really into sports in a big way. I played in college, played soccer and lacrosse, and actually got this very intense concussion in my senior spring that actually propelled me into making music. And while I was recovering, I ended up writing my first 4 songs, and that kind of started the whole thing. And I started playing in New York. I would travel into New York on weekends and play little shows here and there.
Are you originally from New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to school in Pennsylvania, North Pennsylvania, and that kind of got it going. I played Rockwood. It was one of my first shows ever, and I've been playing there for the past 3 years. And so I met Ken Rockwood, and I worked with him on this new EP that's coming out.
So when you got your concussion, you had no musical abilities or anything before then? You had not explored it, or what kind of?
Yeah, you know, I was always a singer, but I was a secret singer. Or I loved to sing growing up, like all the time. But I guess my friend Tracy actually told me that she put it, like it probably cracked something open in me that I probably wouldn't have tapped into if it weren't for the injury. So yeah, it kind of opened that part of me up in a bigger way that was undeniable.
So your new EP, Crinkle Bloom, can you tell us a little bit about the writing process behind that? You know, what sort of sound you were going for, what was inspiring you?
Yeah, sure. So Crinkle Bloom, to me, it's what it means is something very raw combined with something beautiful and polished. You know, this kind of paradox of concepts and how, walking around we see it every single day. Writing it was actually, all these songs were written mostly in the first 2 years I lived in New York, and one of them was written when I had to leave New York, when it totally broke me down. I was just like, this is too hard, I have to leave. And so I ended up finding myself in Texas, and I wrote one of those songs in Texas. And the last one I wrote when I came back. So yeah, I've just been growing up as a person and as an artist, and these songs really come from a very real place of growing up in essence. They're not perfect, and I think walking into the studio, we really wanted to keep just a rawness and a realness combined with, like a studio polished sound. So I think what resulted is something very simple and something that people can relate to on a very, I guess just in a real way.
And I guess, I assume you started off just, accompanying yourself, writing songs, singer-songwriter, that whole shtick. And so when you brought in other instruments, and like, how did you kind of decide the style that you were going for? Like a little blend of jazz is in there, and you have, I think the cello I saw.
Yeah, that's one of my best friends, Susan Mandel. Yeah, I've been so lucky to meet such amazing musicians throughout my time here living in New York. What's on the record is actually, a lot of that has to do with the decisions by Ken, who produced it, and I think he did such an amazing job. He basically called up some of his friends who happen to be incredible musicians. Mark Juliana on drums, Rob Calder played the bass, and John Coward played the piano. So I've been lucky to have worked with such amazing people because of Ken.
Yeah.
And so since then, John and I have started to write together, and it's cool. To me, it's just all about these little relationships that you make, and I met Susan 2 years ago, and she's become one of my very best friends in the world, and I just love playing with her because, I don't know, you saw her last night, but she plays with such passion, and playing with people like that just make you a better player.
So were you playing live with that arrangement before the album came out, or did you kind of translate what you had on the record into a live sort of show?
Actually, I did a lot of experimenting for everything leading up to the release. And Yeah, I would play with different friends basically every time. You know, sometimes acoustic guitar, sometimes electric, sometimes with piano, sometimes not. But yeah, I think I'm starting to hone into a sound that is a little mix of everything.
And so are there certain like themes that inspire you, or is it more just personal, like what sort of things you're going through, or literature, or is there anything that, you know, kind of triggers your inspiration?
Oh, absolutely. This past year in particular has been one of huge spiritual growth for me, actually. You know, I went away to Texas, actually lived on a bison farm. It was this riding residency in the middle of nowhere.
So you ride horses?
No, I don't.
Oh, writing.
Riding.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like on a farm riding residency.
I know, it wasn't quite like that, but yeah, I was out there as the only human being in like 30-mile radius, and when you're in that kind of situation, you just are confronted with all these questions that can get lost in the mix of New York. So that was a pivotal moment for me because, you know, it just made me revisit all of these questions of what do I really believe in? What do I really, you know, none of us really know why we're here. This is like a crazy life that we live, and you know, as a songwriter, like I can get lost in it, just like, oh wow, like what about this lyric and what about this truth? And for me, it was so good for me to come to a place where I'm like, okay, here's the bedrock of what I believe, and I'm going to build off of that. So yeah, big questions really inspire me, even though they're hard and challenging. I read a lot of, you know, philosophy and theology and books of that nature that inspire me a lot.
Nice. And I also read somewhere that you're really inspired by water, or you're a water...
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Totally. My family really, we spent a lot of time on the water. We used to go to Hawaii every single Christmas to visit some family out there, but really I would be surfing the entire time, and we, every summer we'd camp on our sailboat along the Long Island Sound, and just spent so much time on the water. And it's, you know, the geek in me lately has been, you know, studying a little bit about the chemistry of water and you know, the physics of water, and it's all I find it so fascinating, and I geek out about it. But it means a lot to me because at the molecular level, but then also at the, you know, much bigger level. I mean, my mom's actually, sorry, I'm going on all these tangents. My mom's from the Philippines, and not too long ago they went through a crazy storm, and one of the backlashes of that storm was this giant tsunami that came and basically engulfed an entire city, a little town right on the water. And so just seeing, you know, that hurt me in a big way, affected me in a big way. But yeah, water has been something that I've been trying to dissect. And,
on a metaphorical level,
yes,
too.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah. So do you have any plans for after the EP? Do you have a full length that you have in the works?
Oh, yeah, totally. I have not stopped writing, so that's the funny part about coming out with, you know, a record of any sort. These are very old songs now at this point to me, and it's good for me to revisit, you know, where they came from and where I was when I wrote them. But I wrote so many new songs, and I'm actually ready to record them.
Nice.
Yeah, so I have about 15 songs. I guess we'll weed out a couple and just, you know, making the steps to see how that's possible.
All right. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. But for now, Music Times viewers, don't forget to check out Crinkle Bloom, which is available on iTunes. And don't forget to check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks. Bye.